You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Spike TV starts at 9. The prelims apparently start at 6:45. Is that right?
Yeah, they always stagger it because they're trying to get in way more fights before the TV broadcast, and honestly, they should. So they have to start a little earlier. They can't start at the top of the hour because imagine every one of these fights goes the distance. They're going to be cutting right up on TV time.
So in that case, do they bump? Do you think they'd bump 2 prelims to dark match after the main event?
No, they've already got one dark match after the main card, so I kind of doubt they're going to do that in this case.
Okay, but it has happened in the past, though.
It has. There's been times where a bout that wasn't advertised as a swing bout got moved to after the show.
Well, let's talk about
I was in a card where they did that to Houston Alexander, actually.
Oh, I remember you talking about that, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody there was going nuts for that fight, and I was like, you guys should have put this on TV. You really should have.
Well, live and learn.
Yeah.
All right, well, main event, Emmanuel Newton and Liam McGeary for the light heavyweight championship. Boy, I like Newton in this fight. I'm going to pick Newton, but McGeary, you do not want to sleep on this guy.
No, he's undefeated for a reason. He's a pretty phenomenal light heavyweight, but the thing is, he hasn't faced competition at Emmanuel Newton's level yet. The fact that he's been smoking almost everybody in the first or the second round is because he hasn't met a fighter as tough as Emmanuel Newton.
But yeah, sometimes we see these undefeated records and oh, big deal, he fought scrubs. But in McGeary's case, I mean, some of these guys aren't scrubs. It could be the real deal. It might not be. But I wouldn't say...
I'm not saying that these guys are scrubs, but I'm saying Mike Musatelli versus Emmanuel Newton. We know which guy is the better fighter of the two of them.
True, but if you look at a guy who's 9-0, 6'6", and 205, I mean, the guy is 6'6", and a light heavy. I mean, he's got a 5-inch advantage on Newton alone. That's pretty impressive, for light heavy. How many light heavyweights do you know past 6'5"?
I know this guy could legitimately be fighting at heavyweight, but he's a skinny beanpole of a man. He looks like he shot up out of a cornfield when you look at him.
A cornfield.
Well, that's they always say when the corn's as high as an elephant's eye. So that's Liam McGeary for you. What, you've never heard that saying before?
No.
Yeah.
We don't have cornfields in Ottawa.
So all I can say is it's a good frame of reference for how tall things are, because when they're tall as corn stalks, they're pretty fucking tall.
Was that in Field of Dreams?
I'm sure it's some movie that you've seen somewhere.
All right, so who you got in this fight?
I'm going with the Hardcore Kid as well. He's proven it over and over again. I mean, this guy had back-to-back title defenses 6 weeks apart last year. So
true.
I'm going to say, until you beat the man, he is the man.
All right, so what about Paul Daly and Andre Santos?
I think Semtex will catch him with something and knock him out cold.
What do you do with Daly after this, though? With Daly winning in the semi-main event, does he main event a Bellator show down the road?
Well, originally he was supposed to be fighting Douglas Lima. Remember what I said? A lot of changes to this card. So I'd say if Daly wins with a spectacular knockout finish, give him Douglas Lima in his next fight.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good, actually. I'd watch that for sure. Yeah, I've got Daly as well. I've always been a big fan of Daly, and I don't think we'll see him in...
is a big fan of Daly as well, because he's from Nottingham. That's his hometown, so you know that Al Halls is pulling for him.
Yeah, I don't see him ever fighting in UFC, but he's carved out quite the niche for himself, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, he just needs to stay out of bars and stay out of trouble, and then he'll be a force to be reckoned with in Bellator. But if he gets himself in any more hot water, they're not going to want to deal with it.
Chick Congo against King Mo, which on paper sounds like a dream matchup.
I got King Mo in this one.
Really?
Yeah, I have this feeling that King Mo is going to be able to take Czech Congo down, and Czech Congo's not going to be able to get off his back. Being a smaller fighter actually helps King Mo in this case.
I think Congo rocks King Mo and knocks him out.
I think he'll be able to avoid the knockout blow because, again, being smaller and faster will be an advantage for King Mo in this fight. He'll get away from anything Czech Congo can throw at him. Czech Congo's never exactly been renowned for his speed.
No, that's true, but I disagree with you. I think Congo catches him.
I think King Mo proves that in this particular instance, I wouldn't put him up against every single heavyweight. I wouldn't put him up against a Vitaly Minakov, for example.
Oh, no.
But I think in this case, he believes that he can get the edge. I have a belief that Mo can do it.
All right. What about Sokoudjou against Linton Vassell?
My heart says Sokoudjou, but that's because I interviewed him and I like the guy. He's been up and down. Some people would look at his record and would underestimate him, but you have to remember this is a guy who got such a hot start so early in his career that it probably skewed not only his perspective but the MMA world's perspective as well. So he had to basically come back from being the hottest thing on earth and getting signed to UFC way before he was ready, and then having to rebound from that disappointing experience and reestablish himself. And now that he's got a couple of wins under his belt in Bellator, it smells like he could finally be where he's wanted to be all along. But he's going to have to get past Linton Vassell first, who is the former light heavyweight contender who faced Emmanuel Newton last fall, like we were talking about, and was doing pretty well in that fight until he got caught and choked out. So Vassell is a very dangerous dude. You do not want to sleep on this guy if he gets you to the ground, because he's got a rear naked choke, and Sokoudjou knows it, and he doesn't want to be on his back with Linton Vassell sinking something in behind him. He knows.
What fighter do you want to have sinking in a choke on you? That's like the most impossible position. Like,
I understand that, but there are some people who are better finishers at it than others. Like example, guillotine choke. Anybody puts it on you, it's a bad day. Team Alpha Male puts it on you, it's a really bad day.
What about the double guillotine guy?
Oh, McKenzie?
Yeah.
Didn't he just bomb out in his last fight?
Yep. People said that double guillotine was as dangerous as Team Alpha Male. It was like one of those things where you're sunk in with that, you're done. And sadly to say, McKenzie, he's fallen down the ladder, so to speak. You know, like people have found a way to avoid it now.
Yeah, some people live the gimmick, and some people the gimmick lives them.
That's true. So you got Vassell then?
Let me think about this one a little bit more before I give you my final answer, because again, I feel an unfair amount of bias creeping in here because of the fact that I interviewed Sokoudjou, and he's such a personable guy, and I've been watching him for a very long time now. I saw his Pride fights way back in the day when he scored those two big upsets, and it's one of those deceptive fighters. Like, you don't realize he's really been around that long when he has. So he's got experience on his side, which, you know, even though he's going up against a guy who's only lost one fight, it's something that you can't underestimate the value of experience. The fact that he's been in those wars and lost those fights, and at the same time, Sokoudjou knows he can get upsets on guys because he's done it before. I mean, this is the man who felled Jan the Giant Norche. This is the man who beat Bob Sapp back when beating Bob Sapp still meant something. So,
no, not so much.
Not as much these days. So, well, at the end of the day, let me just call it like this. I think Sokoudjou will have a very good fight, a very exciting fight. But since Linton Vassell will probably take him down and look for submissions, I'm going to predict a split decision for Linton Vassell.
Yeah, I see this fight going to the judges, and, you know, I'm in the same boat. I'm going to say Sokoudjou just to make it interesting, but I could definitely see, I mean, it's going to probably go down to the third round, and we both know in the third round, if it's going to a decision, and that last 30, 60 seconds where both fighters give what they have left in that cage, you never know what's going to get thrown, blocked, lands, what have you. It could go down to the last second, You know what I mean? It's one of
we
those things
do
that could be
know
that close.
Sokaju has knockout power. If
Oh,
Basil
yes.
if he gets sloppy and lets Sokaju clock him, it's lights out.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we could be wrong. This fight could be over in the first round, so who knows? Wrapping up the main card is Millender against Ward, which we've kind of mentioned before, but who are you going to pick in this one?
Well, I'm going to go with Brennan Ward because he is a former Bellator tournament winner. He got really hot really quick, and then he faced the Storm Alexander Shlemenko and lost via guillotine choke. And he's kind of having to rediscover himself after being so hot, so quick, so young. Now it's kind of more like you get a couple losses, you figure out who you are, you get called upon to jump up to the main card when you were in the prelims. You're already trained, you're already ready. Now the spotlight's back on you again where it once was before. And they basically, I'm not saying they were setting up Michael Venom Page to win because you don't want to accuse a promotion of that, but they were probably looking at Curtis Millender like, here's an undefeated guy who, if Michael Venom Page beats him, we can say that Michael Venom Page beat an undefeated guy and skyrocket him up to a main event. So, that being said, they must think there's a possibility that a former tournament winner can do the same thing, filling in as a substitute. So I'm going to go with Brennan Ward taking Curtis Millender in this fight. Well, short notice, but like I said, he was already in training for a fight with Jesse Juarez, so it's not like he's coming in unprepared.
No, I'm not saying I'm prepared, but Millender's fighting style is probably a lot different than Ward, isn't it? Or Page, sorry.
Yeah, well, Page is more of a flashy striker. He's known for getting really funky knockouts and dancing around the cage, and some people don't like it. Some people think he's cocky, and I've even talked to him about that. I said, hey, you got the nickname MVP, Michael Venom Page. Do people think you're kind of arrogant? And he says, yeah, I get called that sometimes, but I'm just trying to put on a show for the fans and give them what they paid for, so I would say, yes, stylistically, it's a different fight, but at the same time, Curtis Millender, what can we really say about him? Because all his fights have been, unaired on television in a major North American way. I mean, yeah, he's got, like, Fight Club OC, whatever that is, and he's won a couple of fights by knockout and a lot of fights by decision. We really don't know anything about Curtis Millender other than he has a nickname that sounds like his first name. So I think the guy looks good on paper, but they were expecting Page to beat him.
One other thing on the prelims here, I do want to mention, there is a Gracie on this card.
Neiman Gracie.
But we haven't seen him since, World Series of Fighting?
I think so. It's been
a while since we've seen him, yeah. So for those people excited to see a Gracie on the card, it's not it's not a bigger Gracie. I guess it's like it's one of those Gracies that is trying to, I guess, carve his own little niche in Bellator, I guess you could say.
Well, he is 2-0, so I mean, not a lot of fights under his belt, but at least he's unbeaten. So
he's trying.
And he's won both of his World Series fighting bouts with a submission, one via armbar, one via rear naked choke. So he's off to a good start.